We've all been accused of doing something in our marriage. That could be lying, it could be stealing, or even cheating. Today, we're going to unpack how to deal with accusations, overcome them, remove them, or at least limit the occurrence that your wife will accuse you of doing something. Now, I'm going to use examples that are less talked about, but have great impact on your marriage. That's not to say that lying, stealing, and cheating are the things that you should just sweep to the side. If you have those accusations lingering in your marriage, I highly encourage you to use the same process to deal with those, including using the drill to deal with it. However, some of these other things will be very applicable, and if they're left unchecked, can be a detriment to your marriage. So let's get into the episode.
Welcome to the Husband's Coach's Corner, the podcast that teaches husbands how to love their wife every day and become better men in the process. I'm your host, Chris Scott, aka the Husband Coach.
Welcome back to the Husband Coach's Corner. As you heard in the intro, we are talking about accusations in the marriage. Look, these are a big deal. The good news is there's a way of deciphering them to figure out what the unmet need is, and then guess what you get to do as the husband? Show up and meet that need. These are the best things that your wife can do for you, and it doesn't seem like it at the time because it hurts our pride when we're being accused, and no one likes to be told that they did something that they didn't do, or maybe you did do it. Maybe you did it in the past, but you didn't do it this time. The story can go on and on from there. What I really want to drive home today is there's two reasons that accusations are probably coming up in your marriage. All right. Now, there could be more, but these two reasons are probably the culprit. The first one is your wife has a lack of trust or confidence in your ability to accomplish whatever the thing is that she's saying is the accusation. All right. That's the first one. The second one is you have a misunderstanding or miscommunication. So those two go hand in hand, misunderstanding and miscommunication, and then lack of trust and lack of confidence. Now, these should not come as any surprise to the longtime listeners of the Husband Coach's Corner. These are things that I talk about on a consistent basis, and you'll see as you go through the drill today that maybe you aren't meeting some of these needs, which are communication. We need to communicate effectively with our wife, not just talking at her. We need to speak with her. All right. And often that means we have to get on her level and understand. Again, misunderstanding leads to miscommunication, right? If I don't understand the language, how am I supposed to communicate to you? There are some universal ways of communicating things, as there are in the outside world with our other interpersonal relationships, but this is a intimate interpersonal relationship. So there are deeper feelings, investment, all kinds of passion tied into the relationship with your wife. This is why it's a little bit more challenging. So let's go ahead and unpack some of these things. Now, I do want to give a very clear call to action and disclaimer. The first one is, or really the disclaimer or call to action, is that if you are struggling with accusations of cheating, one, take a really deep dive at yourself and say, am I cheating? It is so important that you build trust in that area, that your wife knows that you are monogamous to her, and she's the only woman that you are in a relationship with. If you are being accused of flirting, you have to ask yourself, do I have adulterous eyes? Am I lustful against other women? These are truly deeply rooted things that you have to decipher in yourself. Because if it's true, then the path of moving forward is going to be different than if it's false and there's just a misunderstanding. You see how that works? If there's no trust, it's probably because it's true inside of you. And if there's miscommunication, it's probably because it's false, but there's this illusion that you're doing the thing or not doing the thing that you're being accused for. All right. So if you didn't get anything, or if you don't get anything out of this episode today, I just wanted to share that because understanding that basic principle will help you with all the other things that I'm going to go over. So let's go into the very first one. Now, this one is money, or these two accusations are in reference to money. Money is a big deal because it leads to divorce most commonly in marriage. Like, if you don't get your money right, you're going to have some problems. All right. Now, the accusation, or at least the very first accusation, is you spend too much money on things that you don't need. You spend too much money on things that you don't need. Now, you could have this accusation coming from two different ways. Either one, you don't have trust and confidence in your wife with your maturity of spending the money. So as the money comes in, you're out buying whatever is considered an extravagant or unnecessary need for the family. So that's a maturity concern. That's a trust issue, right? Or a lack of confidence in your ability. Or, and in this circumstance, it could be both. It could be a lack of trust and confidence based off of a misunderstanding, which ultimately turns into a miscommunication to your wife. So here's how it could be considered a misunderstanding. You go out and you buy a collector's item. This collector's item is extremely expensive. You're working on a business that you're not explaining to your wife, so she misunderstands what you're doing. She sees it as extra stuff that's coming into the house that you don't need. Now, that could be true, that could be false. You're going to have to do the analysis in your own marriage to see if this applies or not. But because of that misunderstanding, that you did not show or share what you're doing, which is also a miscommunication, it comes down to a lack of trust. You see how those things all come together? So in reality, because you didn't explain to your wife that you're trying to do something, you go out and you do something that she doesn't understand. She loses trust and confidence in you because money is very sensitive in many, many marriages. And at the time of this recording, finances in the house are probably really tight. So if you're getting one of these accusations, you should probably take a step back and say, okay, well, did I buy something that is, what was there a misunderstanding here? And be very clear. A misunderstanding for good intention is different than a misunderstanding if you were just being ornery and you wanted something because you got a stimulus check or something like that. All right. Not judging anyone's circumstances or situation. All I'm saying is you got to be real with yourself. All right. The second one that I have tied to money is you don't make enough money, which is why we live the way we do. Now, this one can come down to misunderstanding most likely. And the misunderstanding can be on both ends, right? Maybe you misunderstood when you got married to your wife that she was looking for a person to love her, not a person who had a ton of money, and you knew you weren't going to make a lot of money because maybe you yourself don't cherish money the way that your wife does. And that could be a misunderstanding, which leads to miscommunication. And at the heart of that is there's no trust in you to provide for the family. And there could be other underlying issues that are causing your wife to lead to saying this accusation. So that's something, again, you're going to have to analyze for yourself. The drill for this episode will help you break that down and really decipher where you are. But it's going to be a lot of personal search. All right. Moving into the next category, the incomplete task. Man, let me tell you, there are a lot of tasks that we as men, we just don't complete. So this statement is more of a overarching statement, very general, and you'll have to fill in the blank. All right. Actually, the next two statements are fill in the blank, essentially. So you never do, and then fill in the blank. Or you always, and then fill in the blank. Now, I'd like to pause here for a second and point out these are absolutes. Whenever your wife speaks to you in an absolute, you should really pay close attention because words do have meaning, right? And you may have a misunderstanding based off of the never and the always, and you don't pay attention to what's coming after the never or the always, or whatever came before the never or the always. Case in point, it may not be an accurate statement that you never or you always do something, right? That's not always an accurate statement. Instead, what it may be is you often do whatever this is that she's saying. If that is the case, then that makes sense. All right. Don't get hung up on the never and the always and turn that into an argument. Hear what she's saying so you can get understanding. And if you don't understand, you got to ask questions, right? And from there, you can get better understanding. This is how you build communication. Now, these are also areas where you will probably be losing trust in a certain area. Case in point, if you get an accusation that says, you never spend time with me after work, all right? This is a common one, spending time. That's why I talk about it so often in these episodes. You never spend time with me. You're always out doing this. You can come up with the accusations, right? The unmet need there and the lack of trust or confidence is that you prioritize your wife over yourself, that you prioritize what it is that your wife needs over the things that you want to do. You prioritize the things that you want to do over your wife's needs. And again, that's the unmet need. These accusations are gold for husbands that are struggling in their marriage and you're looking for a way to show your wife love every single day. Just write these accusations down. In this week's drill, what I want you to do is really hone in on finding these absolute statements of what you're not doing. Because these are the things that your wife is saying, I need you to put more emphasis and attention here. And when you do that, she is going to feel love and you're going to reap the benefit of the love that you are investing into the marriage. All right. So very important you pay attention to those. Now, the last one, I kind of tied into this with the absolute statements there, which is the incomplete task, which is prioritizing your time. Oh, man, I could go on and on about what we do with our time. Bottom line, time is a unreplenishable resource. What that means is every second that's going by is a second that is missed opportunity of doing something. All right. Doesn't matter if it's something that you want to do or something that you don't want to do. It's a missed opportunity to do something. Now, where we choose to invest our time Even for those of us who may not be very organized with managing a calendar, and maybe you don't even know how to balance a calendar. Moral of the story is, if you're doing something with your time, you're not doing something else with your time. All right. So if I'm at the gym working out, I'm not watching a movie with my wife. Right. Those are two separate locations. We have not come to a point, and I don't think we ever will, where we'll be able to be in two places at the same time. So the way that you prioritize how you use your unreplenishable resource shows your wife, even if she doesn't understand that time is an unreplenishable resource, it shows your wife that you prioritize her. This is why I highly recommend everyone cut out a little section in their calendar and say, hey, this is my wife's time. And unless it is an absolute emergency, this is uninterrupted time with me and my wife to do whatever my wife and I do, and make that known to her that she has time. Now, I digress, because that's not what today's episode is about. The statement that you may run into if you are having issues with prioritizing time with your wife is, you spend more time doing fill in the blank instead of doing fill in the blank. All right. So you spend more time at the gym instead of reading with the kids. That could be an accusation, right? Because it's not always about the two of you, but these are accusations that are coming from your wife, which means it's hurting her in some way, which means you're losing trust, confidence, and influence. I did not add that in the beginning, but influence is very important. We want to be able to influence our wives, not to manipulate her, but to influence her in a positive way of feeling loved. All right. When you lose confidence and trust, you lose influence with your wife. But when you build that, you gain that. All right. That's deeper than I'm going to go in today's episode. But moral of the story, and this is most commonly not a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. This is a misprioritization. All right. Lots of misses, but the one that you're missing is prioritizing what you do with your time, as I explained just a second ago. Again, this is an easy fix. She's telling you at the end of this accusation that you should be doing something else. Now, if you don't get the back half, because sometimes our wives, they shorten their accusation, and you may just get the you spend more time doing, and then it's like, okay, then you have to help them finish that statement, right? We as the husbands have to remove our emotions, and it's hard. I am not here to tell you that this is easy to remove your emotion from these accusations or these statements. However, what I will tell you is, the more you catch it and you realize, like, okay, it's time for me to be a husband and not get into my emotions, but to hear what my wife is saying, so I can be the genuine rock and mediator in the conversation, and then bring her down and get on even ground so we can have a genuine conversation. Now, in my episode of how men should deal with conflict, I covered that. Or how husbands should deal with conflict in the marriage. I covered that. Sometimes you may need to walk away, because accusations will get your blood boiling and get your blood pressure up. I get it. I really do. However, once you hear this statement, if you don't get the back half, you got to get the back half. You don't have to agree with the back half of, instead of doing, you're spending time doing this. So whatever this is, we'll use the example of going to the gym. You go to the gym too much. Instead, you should be hanging out here at the house, helping me with the cleaning or the cooking or something of that sort. All right. Very, very important that you get the back half. The way that you do that, I'm going to give you a technique here, is you ask your wife what it is that you would like her, or what it is she would like you to do with your time instead. You guide her through that conversation. So she may say, I would like you to, I don't know, we'll just throw something out there. I would like you to organize the garage. That goes back to the incomplete task. That could also just be how she wants you to prioritize your time. And sometimes maybe the thing is that you are being accused of spending too much time at work. That is its own challenge, right? And you may end up with a few of these all coupled together of you spend too much time at work, you don't make enough money, and this is the reason why we live the way that we live. You spend too much money on things that you don't need. You see how these accusations build on top of themselves? All of this comes down to trust and confidence, or the lack thereof, and the ability to communicate effectively. I'm not here to tell you that I have mastered the accusation, right? But I do get excited when my wife accuses me of something, because it triggers two things in me. The first one is, well, is she right? That's a internal search. The external search, or the second thing that triggers, is an external search of where are the other opportunities for me to improve upon this accusation. What I mean by that is, at one point my wife told me, Chris, you don't clean up after yourself. I said, oh, okay, well, let me see if that's true. I don't clean up after myself. And then I said, oh yeah, okay, well, I put all my dishes in the sink. And so I said, hey, I feel like I do clean up after myself because I put all my dishes in the sink. And that was the conversation that we were having. She said, well, dishes in the sink is clutter to me, and I don't like clutter. So then that triggered a light bulb. I get it. My wife doesn't like clutter, and you can't see it, but I have wires all over that connect my computer to all the other things that are in my office here. And my wife does not like wires. She doesn't like clutter. And so when she told me that, I understood why she doesn't like wires. So now whenever I install something in the house, I always make sure to do some sort of cable management just to make it a little bit better for her and the opportunity for me to love on her. All right. That seems like a very simple thing, but let me tell you something. When you do the simple things, it adds up to the bigger picture of loving your wife. And we always look for these grand gestures, and you don't need it. Your wife will tell you that you don't need a grand gesture. Your wife just needs you to, one, hear where she's coming from, and two, show up and perform in that capacity. All right? That's it. It's not that this is not rocket science, guys. This is not overly complicated. Our wives just want us to love her each and every day. And when we do that, we reap the reward of feeling the respect that we're looking for. But it does not come before you give the love. Now, of course, your wife could be on the other end and saying, I'll give you love regardless, I'll give you respect regardless of if you give me love, right? But that's not what we're focused on this channel. We are on this podcast, and I guess it's also a YouTube channel, so shameless plug, go ahead and check out the Husband Coach over on YouTube if you're into watching YouTube videos. The podcast goes live at the same time that it goes live on Spotify and all the other podcasting platforms. Sorry about that. Just didn't want to miss that opportunity. With that being said, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's listening. If you are looking to get the drill, all right, join the email list. in the show notes or in the description box, depending on where you're listening to this and what platform you're on. You can get the drill by signing up for the email. If you don't get the drill, please send me an email and just say, hey, Chris, I didn't get the drill and I really want this drill, because this is a very, very important drill for you to learn how to use and for you to get involved with. All right. So I want to make sure that if you want the drill, that you have an opportunity to get the drill. If you are on a platform that allows for any sort of interaction to help get this podcast pushed out to more people, if there's a like feature, a review feature, a subscribe feature, whatever it may be, I would highly appreciate it if you would spend some time writing a review. If you're over on YouTube, you can drop a comment in the comment section. I do get to those, some faster than others. It just depends on what my schedule is like, because I do have a full-time job outside of creating this content, which I do really as a hobby and to help the husbands that are out there struggling and those that are thriving. All right. I just want to help all my brothers out there across the globe. Doesn't matter where you are. I just want to make sure that if you are married, that you have an opportunity to love your wife every single day. With that being said, thank you for listening. And what I want you to do is find a way to love your wife every day. Peace.